I still remember the night everything in my world shattered. Rain fell like broken glass, slicing through the silence, and I stood in the middle of an empty road with a dog bleeding in my arms. The same dog who once dragged me away from the darkness of my own life. People talk about angels, but sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they walk on four legs, and sometimes they save you long before you ever learn how to save yourself. This is the story of how a stray dog saved a broken man, and how that broken man almost lost the only soul who truly loved him. My name is Rayan. Before the world called me successful, I was a man carrying more scars inside than anyone could ever see outside. No job, no purpose, no direction. Just a tiny rented room, a cracked mirror, and a life that felt painfully stuck. But life has strange ways of sending help, sometimes in forms you don't recognize at first. The first time I saw him, he was nothing more than a trembling shadow under an abandoned truck. A skinny brown dog with ribs showing through his fur, and eyes too tired for his young age. He looked like life had already given him more pain than he deserved. I didn't know it then, but this dog would become my only family, my hope, my protector, my everything. I walked past him that night, pretending I didn't care. But the truth is, I saw myself in him, a creature forgotten by the world. The next morning, he was still there, weak, shivering, waiting. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because I needed something to take care of. Or maybe I sat on the ground, keeping distance, speaking softly. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." Minutes passed. His breathing was shaky. His eyes kept blinking, as if deciding whether I was another danger or the first kindness in a long time. Finally, slowly, painfully slowly, he stretched his neck and took a small bite. That was the first time he ate anything in 2 days. And that was the first time I felt something warm inside me after years of numbness. I named him Shadow because he followed me home that night, quietly, gently, like a shadow that had finally found its light. Life still wasn't easy. I still had no real job, barely any money, and barely any idea why I kept waking up every morning. But every time I opened my eyes, Shadow was there, tail wagging softly, eyes glowing with trust. He didn't care that I was poor. He didn't care that I wasn't successful. He didn't care that the world didn't think much of me. To him, I was enough. And sometimes, that's all a broken man needs to start healing. Shadow grew healthier. His bones disappeared under new fur. His steps became stronger. And for the first time in years, I started smiling. One evening, I got fired from a small delivery job. It wasn't my fault. The company shut down. But it felt like another hit from life, another slap from destiny. I threw the uniform on the ground and walked home under the burning sunset, feeling empty again. Shadow walked beside me, not asking, not judging, just there. When we reached home, I sat on the floor, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Maybe I'm just not meant for anything." Shadow rested his head on my knee. Just that simple touch, it kept me from falling apart. That was the night I made a decision. If the world wasn't giving me a path, I would create one. I had one old camera, cracked, dusty, barely working. But I knew how to take decent photos. So I started offering free pet photos in the park, just to practice. Owners loved them. They started paying me, recommending me, showing my work to others. Shadow became my partner. He sat beside me every day. Children loved him. Clients trusted me because they trusted him. My small idea turned into a real job, then into a business, then into something bigger than I ever imagined. I started earning, saving, growing, Shadow watched every step with eyes full of pride. One night, a fire broke out in the neighborhood. People were yelling, running, panicking. And before I could stop him, Shadow dashed into the smoke. I screamed his name again and again, but he didn't stop. Why? Because Shadow wasn't running from something. He was running toward something. Inside the burning house, a child was trapped. No one saw it. No one heard him. No one except Shadow. He didn't think twice. He didn't wait for help. He jumped through flames for a child he didn't even know. I ran after him, heart exploding with fear. The smoke burned my throat. My eyes wouldn't open. But I could hear Shadow barking, loud, desperate, guiding the child toward the doorway. I pushed inside, grabbed the coughing child, and searched for Shadow. I found him lying near a collapsing wall, struggling to breathe. He had saved a life, but almost lost his own. I carried him out, screaming for help. The child was safe, but Shadow, my Shadow, was barely conscious. His breathing was weak, his fur burned, his paws bleeding. I held him in my arms, shaking. "Stay with me. Please stay with me." But his eyes were closing. That was the moment the first line of this story happened. The moment I stood in the middle of the road, rain pouring, holding my dying best friend. The dog who saved a child. The dog who saved me long before. Rain hammered the ground as I ran with Shadow in my arms. My clothes were soaked, my lungs burning. But nothing hurt more than the fear pulsing through my chest. People gathered around me, whispering, pointing, but I didn't care. All I cared about was the faint rise and fall of Shadow's chest. Too slow, too weak. "Someone call a vet," I yelled. But no one moved. It was late. Most clinics were closed, and the ones open wouldn't take an emergency without money up front. Money I didn't have. My hands trembled as I held Shadow closer. His fur smelled like smoke. His heartbeat was fading. His eyes were half open, staring into nothing. "You can't leave me," I whispered. "I don't care if the world gives up on me, but not you. Please, don't go." His tail twitched, just once, as if telling me he was still fighting. That was enough. I sprinted through the streets like a madman. Shadow's body felt heavier with every step. The rain blurred everything. Streetlights, cars. I burst into the nearest animal clinic. The receptionist jumped at the sight of me, soaked, panting, carrying a burned, half-dead dog. "Please," I shouted, "he's dying." The vet rushed out, checked Shadow's breathing, then looked at me with a cold, practiced expression. "He needs oxygen, fluid therapy, and immediate treatment. It's expensive." Then he paused. "Do you have money?" His question stabbed deeper than any blade could. I'll pay. I don't have it right now, but I'll pay." "Just save him." The vet's eyes hardened. "We don't start procedures without advance payment." I felt something rage inside me. Fear, anger, helplessness. "He saved a child tonight," I shouted. "He ran into a burning house. "I'm sorry," the vet said, turning away. "Policy is policy." Shadow whimpered, barely, softly, painfully. That small sound broke me. I fell to my knees, gripping him, tears mixing with rainwater. "Please, just help him. Please." And then something unbelievable happened. A woman entered the clinic, her clothes smelling like smoke. The same woman whose child Shadow had saved. She ran toward us, eyes wide with shock and guilt. "Oh my God, that's the dog who—" She looked at Shadow, then at me, and her voice cracked. "Why aren't they treating him?" The vet repeated the same line. No payment, no procedure. The woman didn't argue. She didn't hesitate. She just took out her wallet and slammed it on the counter. Do everything you can, she commanded. I'll cover it. For a moment, my chest collapsed with relief. Shadow was rushed inside. Tubes, wires, oxygen, needles. Everything. I sat outside the clinic, soaked clothes clinging to my skin, heart pounding like it wanted to escape my chest. Every minute felt like a war. Every sound from inside made me jump. The woman sat beside me silently. Her hands shook. "He saved my son," she whispered. "If anything happens to him, I don't know how I'll live with myself." I didn't respond. I couldn't speak. Because the truth was, Shadow wasn't just a dog who saved a child. He was the only reason I was still alive. The only soul who believed in me when the whole world didn't. After nearly 2 hours, the vet came out. His face was unreadable. My heart stopped. "Is he I?" I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. "He's stable," the vet finally said. "He inhaled a lot of smoke, and his paws are burned. But he's strong. Very strong." I exhaled for the first time in 2 hours. My legs almost gave out in relief. "But," the vet added, my breath caught. They let me inside. Shadow lay on a small metal table, wrapped in blankets. A soft oxygen mask covered his muzzle. His chest rose and fell, painfully slow. I sat beside him and placed my hand gently on his head. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." His eyes opened slowly, 2 tiny slits, and he looked at me, and in that look, there was trust, there was love, there was a silent promise. I came back once, I can come back again. I stayed awake all night. I didn't move. I didn't blink for long. Every beep of the heart monitor felt like the universe reminding me how fragile life is. Around 4 a.m., he stopped breathing for a second. I jumped up, panicked, shouting for the vet. But then he gasped, chest rising again. He was fighting, with everything he had. When sunlight finally entered the clinic, the vet checked him again. "He's responding," he said. "If he continues improving like this, he'll recover." I felt tears filling my eyes again, but this time they were warm. The woman returned later with her son, a small boy, maybe 6 years old. He approached the table with eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered to Shadow. "You saved me." Shadow slowly blinked, as if saying, "Of course I did." That moment changed everything. Shadow stayed in the clinic for several days. I visited him every morning, every evening, every night. And slowly, beautifully, he healed. His breathing became stronger. His eyes brightened. His tail wagged again, weak at first, then full of life. The day they finally let me take him home, the vet handed me a report. "You're lucky," he said. "Most dogs wouldn't have survived." I looked at Shadow. "No," I replied softly. "I'm the lucky one." News spread quickly. People heard about the dog who saved a child from a burning house. Reporters came. Cameras came. Interviews came. But I didn't care about fame. I only cared about Shadow walking beside me again, even if a little slower, even if still healing. But the attention brought something unexpected. Clients. Actual clients. Many of them. People trusted me because they trusted the dog who risked his life for a stranger. My photography business exploded. I upgraded my equipment. I rented a small studio. I began hiring helpers. Shadow became the studio guardian. He sat at the entrance every day, greeting customers with soft, kind eyes. And every time he looked at me, I saw pride. Real pride. As if he believed I could become anything. Success is a strange thing. It lifts you up, but sometimes it pulls you away from what truly matters. I became busier. More work, more clients, more money. I started sleeping late, started leaving Shadow alone at home more often, started forgetting the long walks we used to take. Shadow waited near the door for hours every day, and every time I returned late, he would greet me with excitement. No questions, no complaints. But his eyes carried something like sadness. I told myself, I'll give him more time tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. One evening, I stayed at the studio until midnight editing a client's photos. When I finally reached home, Shadow wasn't at the door. Strange. My heart sank as I entered and saw him lying on the floor, breathing fast, panting heavily. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I rushed to him, panic rising like fire inside me. Shadow! Shadow, what's happening? He tried to stand, but collapsed. His heartbeat was racing. His fur felt too warm. His eyes were dull. A silent scream filled my chest. Not again. Not after everything. Not after he fought so hard to live. Shadow's breaths were shallow, each one weaker than the last. His chest trembled like his body was fighting against something invisible, something stronger than him. My mind went numb. I didn't wait a second. I lifted him into my arms and rushed toward the door. But this time, there was no rain, no chaos outside, no fire. Just the crushing realization that this time, I was the reason he had become sick. I had forgotten him in my chase for success. I ran through the streets, heart pounding, whispering, "Please hold on. Don't do this to me. Stay with me, Shadow." Every few seconds, his body twitched in my arms. That scared me more than anything else. I reached the same clinic as before, kicking the door open. The vet recognized me instantly. "This dog again?" He rushed forward instead of asking for money this time. "Put him here, quick!" Within seconds, Shadow was on the table, surrounded by machines and lights. The vet checked his gums, his breathing, his heartbeat. His face darkened. "This isn't from the fire," he said quietly. "This is emotional stress, depression, neglect." The word stabbed me. Neglect. A word I never thought would be tied to me. A word I always associated with cruel people. Not someone who loved his dog more than life. But love isn't only in words. It's in presence, in time, in showing up. And I hadn't shown up. The vet sighed. "He waited for you too long." His anxiety levels shot up. "Dogs like him, loyal ones, they don't handle loneliness well." My throat tightened. "He thought you were leaving him," he added softly. "And it broke him." My knees weakened. I grabbed the edge of the metal table to keep myself standing. "This is my fault," I whispered. The vet didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He didn't need to. I already knew. Shadow opened his eyes weakly when he heard my voice. He tried to lift his head, but couldn't. His eyes spoke more than words ever could. They said, "Where were you? Why did you leave me alone so long?" "I waited. I got scared. But I'm still happy to see you." His tail moved once, weak, trembling, but still filled with love. That broke me completely. "Don't worry," I whispered, kneeling beside him. "I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. I swear." A tear slid down his face. Actually slid, mixing with his fur. Shadow never cried before. That one tear was enough to show the pain he never spoke. The vet returned after running tests. "He can recover," he said. My heart jumped. "But only if you change." The words hit like cold water. He continued, "This dog is emotionally attached to you more than any dog I've seen. If you distance yourself again, even unintentionally, he might not survive the next episode." I swallowed hard. "He's not dying," I said quickly. "He can't die." I won't let him. The vet shook his head. Right now, he doesn't need treatment as much as he needs you. Your presence is the medicine. I gently placed my hand on Shadow's head. His eyes closed slowly, peacefully, like he knew I finally understood. They let me take him home after a few hours of stabilization. But this time, I didn't let him walk. I carried him the whole way, whispering softly, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have been here. I should have been better." Shadow leaned his head against my chest, weak but trusting. That trust hurt more than anything, because I didn't deserve it, but he gave it anyway. I canceled all shoots for a week. Clients complained. Money stopped. Messages piled up. But nothing mattered. I slept beside Shadow on the floor, fed him with my own hands, massaged his paws, spoke to him for hours. Slowly, he began to heal. His breathing steadied. His eyes brightened. His tail wagged again, gently at first, then fully. One morning, when he placed his paw on my chest and licked my face, I cried, because that tiny gesture meant, "I forgive you." And forgiveness from someone you hurt is the heaviest blessing in the world. I changed my entire schedule. I designed the studio like a home, with dog beds, open spaces, toys, blankets. I even printed a board, Shadow Studio, humans allowed only with permission. Clients laughed. Some cried. All loved it. Shadow became a star. He greeted people gently. He calmed down nervous pets. Kids hugged him. Elderly people stroked his head and said he gave them peace. My business doubled, not because of me, but because of him. I wasn't the photographer people came for. Shadow was the healer they wanted to meet. Money grew, followers grew, recognition grew, but this time I never left Shadow behind. He came to work with me every day. He sat next to me during edits. He ate beside me, slept near me, and I watched him grow older. His muzzle turned a little white. His steps became slower, calmer, but his heart stayed the same, pure, loyal, full of love. I finally understood something. Success means nothing if you lose the ones who made you strong enough to chase it. Shadow wasn't just my dog. He was my purpose, my grounding, my anchor to the person I wanted to become. He wasn't collapsing. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't crying. He was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm you see in someone who has accepted something you haven't. I immediately picked him up. "Shadow, talk to me. What's wrong?" He pressed his head into my chest, lovingly, gently, as if comforting me instead of himself. That scared me more than anything ever had. At the clinic, the vet examined him quietly, his face turning heavy. He looked at me with the same expression doctors use when words are about to break a heart. "Rayan," his voice was soft. "He's old now. His heart is weakening. This isn't an emergency. This is age." My chest tightened. "No, there has to be treatment, medicine, surgery, something." The vet shook his head. "There's no cure for age." A pause. "But you can make the time he has left beautiful." My knees weakened. This can't be happening. Not to him. Not now. The vet placed his hand on my shoulder. "You gave him a life better than most dogs ever get. And he gave you something too. A reason to live. But now, he's tired." Shadow looked at me from the table, eyes soft, warm, understanding. Those eyes said, "Don't cry. I'm still here." I took him home that night, and I promised myself, if time was going to take him, then I would fill whatever time remained with memories so beautiful that even heaven would be jealous. I stopped working, closed the studio, ignored calls, ignored money. Shadow became my priority again. completely, fully, entirely. And those days were the most precious days of my entire life. We walked slowly to all our old spots. The park bench, where we first sat. The riverside, where he chased leaves. The bakery, where he begged for biscuits. The street corner, where I found him trembling years ago. He was slower now, but his eyes sparkled like they did when he was young. Animals know when their time is near, but they don't fear death the way humans do, because they live with full hearts and clean souls. Shadow wasn't afraid, but I was. Didn't move for hours. I held him long after his heartbeat stopped. People walked by, some crying softly, some placing hands on my shoulder, some whispering prayers. But I didn't hear them. I only heard the silence where his breathing used to be. That silence was the loudest sound of my life. Later that evening, I buried him under the old tree near our home, the place he loved most. I placed his favorite toy beside him, and a note that said, "You saved me, you made me, you taught me. I will love you forever." I cried until I couldn't breathe, until my chest hurt, until my soul felt empty. But grief is love that has nowhere to go, and I had so much love for him. Days passed, then weeks, then months. The studio remained closed for a long time. I couldn't even step inside. Everything reminded me of him. His bed, his water bowl, his paw prints on the floor. Clients asking, "Where's Shadow?" Every reminder felt like reopening a fresh wound. But one day, I noticed something. On the wall of the studio, where clients used to leave notes, someone had written, "Shadow gave my child confidence. Shadow helped me overcome anxiety. Shadow made my grandmother smile before she passed. Shadow comforted me when I was scared of the camera. Shadow changed lives." I read every note, tears streaming down my face. Shadow hadn't just saved me. He had healed dozens of people without ever speaking a word. I realized then, if I stopped living, I would be betraying the very thing he died teaching me: love, presence, kindness, purpose. So I reopened the studio, not as Rayan Photography, but as Shadow's Light, a place where Years later, on the anniversary of his passing, I visited his grave. The wind was soft, the sky was calm, and as I sat there, a puppy, brown, skinny, trembling, wandered near the tree, the same way Shadow once did. He looked lost, afraid, rejected, just like Shadow used to be. I smiled through tears. "Come here," I whispered. The puppy hesitated, then slowly walked toward me. And in that moment, I felt it. Shadow wasn't gone. He lived in every act of kindness I gave. He lived in every animal I helped. He lived in every life he had touched. Some goodbyes are not endings. Some goodbyes are beginnings written in a different language. I lifted the puppy into my arms. "Welcome home," I said softly. And as I walked back, I swear, I felt a warm breeze circle around me. A familiar presence, a silent blessing, as if Shadow was walking beside me again. Not in body, but in spirit. Forever my shadow, forever my light, forever my reason to live better.